Welcome to Family Guidons, the podcast created by military spouses for military families.
We're the ones holding down the home front during deployments, state activations, and everything in between.
Here we have an honest conversation about the realities of military life, the highs, the hard moments, and the strength it takes to keep moving forward.
Whether you're new to the military community or a seasoned spouse who's seen it all,
Family Guidons is your place for connection, support, and real conversations.
Because no one understands life like the ones who've been living it beside them.
This is Family Guidons. Fall in. Welcome back to Family Guidons. If you missed episode 6, today is a continuation of that episode of the conversation we began about handling the stress and anxiety that comes along with a loved one's deployment. So go back and take a listen to that one before you join us back here for part 2 of holding it together at home, coping with deployment, stress, and anxiety. So welcome back to everyone, and thank you, Lisa, for being here with us still. We're going to jump right into our next kind of topic on our list, which was how do we support our kids through a deployment? So we talked a little bit about that in our first section, but I think they have different needs, different expectations, different ways to show it. So I know in my house anyway, my kids very often mirror my emotions or my stress. So what are some of the biggest ways you feel like parents can help their little ones feel more secure or more settled while their other parent is away?
Yes, I think this is such a good question, and one that comes up a good bit is that you don't have to be perfect at all when it comes to handling your kids' emotions and stress. You just have to be predictable for them, and you have to be safe. So they know that if I show this big emotion to mom, they know that you're going to be able to handle it and that you're not going to get upset with them or get mad at them. Now, there's a time and place for everything, don't get me wrong, depending on the situation, but mainly that you are as even keel as you can be. You're not going to be perfect. It's not an easy thing to do all the time, but that you are a safe person. You are a safe space that they know that they can come to you. And how do you do that? So try to keep the routines as predictable and as normal as you can, as possible. Letting your kids know day to day what to expect. Depending on their ages, that's going to make sense for the really little ones or, the older ones. And then you also want to communicate in ways that are going to match their age and their stage. So we know that talking to a 2-year-old, like, you gave that example before, is going to be different than talking to a 11-year-old. Mm-hmm. And that we are able to match those ages and stages with our communication. So, a lot of the times, you don't have to give them, but so much of the details that's going to be appropriate, depending, maybe if you have a high schooler and they need a little bit more information because they are older and they can, their brains are a little bit more developed and they have questions for you. That's going to be different than, what you say to your, 8-year-old. So they don't have to have all of the details. They just need to know that you're going to give them enough that it's safe for them. They have the information to feel safe.
Yeah, that's a tough one to balance and within a household, like you said, for different ages. Yes. So we've got 11 and 5, and their levels of awareness are really, really different. And their interest in knowing also, right? Like the 5-year-olds just kind of float along in their own oblivion of like, as long as they're still having fun, like they recognize that he's gone. They talk about missing him, but like they're not super curious about what he's doing or how he's filling his time. Whereas the 11-year-old is a little bit different. And with the change in, kind of the activity over there, I felt like I spent the first 3 days sheltering her completely from, what was going on because I wasn't ready to talk about it. And I didn't know exactly what to say to her. But then I felt like as she approached the weekdays and going back to school, I was like, my biggest fear was that she was going to hear something that was inaccurate from a well-meaning friend or teacher or whatever that might be. And I didn't want her to get upset at school or to be like blindsided by something or to be wondering if I was keeping something important from her.
Right.
And so we sat down and had a conversation, and I kind of told her, like, hey, I just want to, let you know that things are a little different. We're in a little bit of a fight with somebody that we don't agree with how they're doing things. And so in case somebody says something to you, like, I want you to know that Daddy is safe, and that he is in a place that is the safest that it can be for him, and that they all, know how to do their jobs, and they know what they're doing over there. And if anybody tells you anything, like, ignore it. If it's concerning to you, like, bring it home and let's talk about it. But, like, know that I will give you honest answers to whatever questions you ask me. And beyond that, like, what you're hearing may or may not be true. Yeah. So try your best to not let it upset you. And, we will talk about those things at home. And she's been good, We had some tears. We've had some conversations. She's asked some questions. But I think in general, like, she is doing the best she can with it, and I'm just trying to support her in that.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. Yeah. To me, that's just, you handled it with great skill, great love, kindness. It sounds great. Like, I love that.
We didn't have to worry about the social media aspect when my kids were young. So it was a whole different ballgame. They didn't have as much information. It was easier to kind of control the flow and not worry about surprises. So it's I can see it's a lot more challenging now.
Yeah, well, and even just, being aware of, we don't turn the news on at all at home, but I was aware that, like, after a couple of days, I'm like, oh, our, like, Alexa, like our Echo thing one of them has a screen. And so it flashes news briefings up there. So, like, I went in and figured out how to turn off that setting, because I'm like, I don't want her to see something on there, because they'll go over there and play music or add things to our grocery list or whatever. And I'm like, I don't want her to see something on there that is scary, that is not an accurate reflection of her dad's situation. Right. You know what I mean? There's a lot going on that doesn't have to do with everybody. So, yeah, you have to think about it in a lot more places. At a friend's house, or, what do they, like, family members, like, they leave the TV on all the time. So it's like, what could they be hearing in the background that you don't necessarily want them to hear? So it does take a lot more awareness as a parent in these situations than I feel like you're maybe, you think you have to have to begin with anyway.
Yeah.
What about creative activities to help kids process their feelings?
Yeah, I of course, depending on the ages, it's going to be different, but I love just giving them the idea to draw a picture about, maybe you want to send something over to dad or mom, draw as much as you want, whatever your heart's desire. Maybe write a letter. You don't have to send it all right away, but just, write a letter to the deployed parent, and it just helps them feel more connected, and that they're, doing something for their parent that they know their parent's going to just love. I think those are always really cool. They used to have this program many years ago, and you could do it now, I guess, depending, if you have real little kids. But they used to have this program where the soldier would read a book ahead of time, and they would record it. I always thought that was so neat. So
they still do that.
They do. Okay,
yes.
Good. Yeah.
And he's been able to do that from USOs.
Perfect.
Depending on the situation. He did a few before he left. I know that the USO, wonderful organization, came to their armory before they left and gave soldiers a chance to do that. But then he's been able to do a couple more. Yeah. And they send the video, and then they also send the book. Yeah. So we've gotten some new books from it too.
That's great. Yeah, I think if the child is older, and maybe you have a love of maybe you love Harry Potter, both of you could, read a Harry Potter book or Lord of the Rings, or I'm just trying to think of what most soldiers deployed are men, like what they would be into. But read a book, maybe watch the same movie, and you can talk about it later. Things like that. Yeah, I think just trying to come up with your own connection rituals is important, and it's going to look different for different families. Definitely.
To add to an idea, one of the things that Rob and I did was we created a playlist. I would send a song, add it to the playlist, then he would add one, just periodically. Now, they got silly, and he didn't necessarily, approach it in the same manner that I did, but that's okay. But I could see you doing that, or I could see a service member doing that with an older child, if music is important to the two of you and is part of your connection. Yeah. So that was fun.
Cool. Yeah.
Somewhere along the line,
that's a good idea.
The playlist got deleted. I don't know who did it. I have my suspicions, but it was fun.
We do videos a lot too. I mean, because the technology is easier and more available, and in total transparency, I don't send every video that they record, but because that would be overwhelming as much as my little ones are enthralled by a phone and seeing themselves on a screen. But it has become kind of a regular part of life that pops up where if they're doing something, they'll ask for my phone to record a video for dad. And so it just allows them to get their thoughts out and again, to feel connected to him, and it has been a sweet thing to see because I feel like they will say things in the videos that they won't necessarily say on the, the short chances that we get to FaceTime with him or whatever. So it's been a cute thing too.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think also when you are connecting and you have time, you're on the FaceTime together, like kind of check in and have questions. If you don't really know what to say, they just get on, go, oh, you talk to daddy, you talk to mommy. And they're like, maybe as if you're watching as the parent holding up the phone, just say, tell mommy something great that happened to you this week, something you're really proud of, and then just kind of like spur the questions on, and what was something hard that you had to deal with, or what are you looking forward to for this weekend, and really try to get them to talk. Because I have one child that will talk your ear off, and then the other one is she's just like, you gotta, it's like pulling teeth to get things out of her. So I've learned how to ask questions to get her to open up more, and so if you know your kids, you'll know what their communication style is, but I think that can be helpful too. Do you guys do that?
We do. So it's funny because I laugh as you say that, because not knowing what to talk about, because the little ones, inevitably, the first questions are always, did you have a good lunch? What did you have for lunch? Did you have dinner tonight? Like, what, have you had dinner already?
They're
what
foodies.
Did you eat? Yeah. Right?
They're foodies.
But it's like they have a hard time knowing what to talk about. So I'm going to put in a plug real quick for a nonprofit organization that we mentioned on an earlier podcast, but it's called Harper's Homefront Heroes. And it was the service initiative of a 10-year-old girl whose father is in the South Carolina National Guard. But she makes these hero bags for kids whose parents are deployed, and she'll send them, so you don't have to be local. But it's got like a little plushy American flag blanket and an American flag stuffed animal and some little patriotic pins. But the neatest part of it is a journal that's in there. So again, depending on the age of your child, like the 5-year-old's color in it, the 11-year-old will write in it. But it's got some prompts like what you were talking about. Like it's got a countdown page. It's got a section for each week where you can talk about like the best thing that happened, this week, the hardest thing that happened, 3 things I want to remember to tell, mom or dad or whoever it is. And so that's been like a really neat tool to try to help trigger conversation. And there was another, I can't remember it now, but if I can find it, I'll link it. We'll link it in the comments. Another organization that does something similar where you can get some kind of activities for kids and a journal and things like that. But I think, finding a way for them to express themselves is important.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. That's really neat.
Yeah. What about any, support resources specific to kids if they're, needing more than just some coloring or a journal or a conversation at home? Are there any organizations or avenues that are specific to kids?
Yes, and over the years, resources have come and gone, and they've changed. So I might be missing a few. So definitely, chime in if I miss a couple. One of them, of course, you can always call us, the South Carolina Behavioral Health Specialists. We work mainly with adults, but we will definitely work with kids. I personally am a marriage and family therapist, so I like to do family work. So I tend to bring everybody in. The more the merrier for me. But we also have, we will work with kids. Now I was sharing earlier that Another resource is going to be Military OneSource. That's always a great resource. The programs that they have are phenomenal. However, to get a child seen by a therapist, you're going to get on their website and you're going to look at the confidential counseling, and then you'll click around, and what they have is working with military and family life consultants, and those are going to be stationed usually on a base. So for example, here in South Carolina, I know there's one or maybe a couple at Fort Jackson. There's a one or two out at Shaw, Beaufort, Joint, down in Charleston, there's going to be the MFLAX, and you can make appointments with them and take your child over to be seen by them. And also, if you really are concerned and maybe your child is showing signs and symptoms of something that's bigger than just deployment related stress, then definitely talk with your pediatrician, because pediatricians they're going to be really tapped into your local resources. You can also use your health insurance. If you have TRICARE, you can look for TRICARE providers that will work with kids. There's lots of different resources. I would say if you're unsure, the best thing to do is call one of us, and we can talk to you about your specific situation. And if we can't be the one to give you the support, we're going to give you what we call a warm handoff. We're going to find somebody in the community close to you. We're going to really do that warm handoff as much as we possibly can. I'm trying to think if there's other resources I'm forgetting.
And just a quick side note. So other states' National Guards would have a similar position to yours, many of them at least. I mean, worth checking out with like the family programs office or something to see if you can find a similar counterpart in your state.
Like I know North Carolina has something similar, but I'm not sure of how they operate now. Right. I think West Virginia has something. We're like similar yet so in our own silo of the state. And I think that's actually something really good to point out is a lot of civilians out there don't necessarily understand National Guard versus active duty.
Right.
And when I tell people what I do, it's like they instantly forget. They just hear military and they think I work for Fort Jackson. And I'm like, no, I work for the National Guard. And they're like, whoa, how is that different? And it's you guys, it's your world, but civilians really don't know what even the reserve is different than National Guard. So I do a lot of education when I'm asked or allowed to talk about what it's like to be in the National Guard and how it's different, because even counselors who are going to be working with you or your kid out there sometimes they don't even know the difference between active duty and National Guard. They don't understand the M-Day status or the AGR status or technician status. I mean, all the things that we just know. And they don't understand what drill status is because they think everybody's active duty. So all that to say, I like it when you call us, because we can go, okay, this is the person that I think you should call, or this is the resource that I think is best. And you don't have to have my number directly, which I'm happy to give, but we have a 800 number that you can call to get set up that we monitor 24/7, 365. And it has changed recently, so I'll have to give you that in a minute because I haven't memorized it like the old one. But we'll put that in the show notes so people can reach out to that. But what happens is you call that number and you leave a message, and we call you back within, sometimes 5 minutes, sometimes 3 hours. It's not a crisis line, it's a care line. But when you call us, we will call you back and figure out what it is that you need and provide a warm handoff, or hopefully maybe even provide that service for you.
That's wonderful.
So I say start with us. I always say start with us, and then we can kind of point you in the best direction. Mainly because I'm in Columbia. We've got somebody in Charleston. We've got somebody in Florence. I cover Rock Hill also. We have somebody in the upstate. I mean, we just know the resources that are going to be National Guard, friendly, I say.
Sure.
Or just understand the culture.
I think that's really important. I was going to ask, but you've answered the question, but I still feel like I just want to say it out loud. I was going to ask specifically about schools and whether there are good resources within the schools through the guidance office. But I like the way that you just presented that, and it makes so much more sense to me. Start with you and your office, because the civilians, and we're going to talk about this in a podcast, civilians a lot of times do not understand the complexities of the National Guard.
Right.
So Thank you for saying that. It clicked with me.
Yeah. Also, in regards to guidance counselors, many moons ago, we used to do that. We used to go to the schools and talk with the guidance counselor if the family requested it. And we can still, I don't see why we can't still do that today. Around Columbia, being that we have Fort Jackson here, they're a little more used to knowing what the resources are. But if you are, I guess it really just depends, because you might have a small county, but they're full of National Guard members, because it's just generations of people being in the Guard. It just really, really depends. Nowadays, guidance counselors, a lot of them don't necessarily do a lot of the actual counseling. They do more testing and assessing. And so they might just be like, I don't even know where to start with this. So if that's something that's happening, like I said, just give them our number, or the family support would be a good place to start also. But yeah, it's different out there. I didn't know anything about it when I first started working here. I was like, what do you mean I go to Bluff Road? I don't go to Fort Jackson. So I didn't know either.
I will give a shout out to, and I know there are other districts, but the district that my children are in, they have a designation as a Purple Star school district. So they have gone through the process to just have some more awareness of military situations. So if you're not sure, I didn't know until I looked, leading up to Bill's deployment. And then I, contacted the guidance office and asked what that meant. And so they were able to, tell me a little bit more about resources that they have. There was an option for school excused absences before Bill left that are coded in a military something, so that they don't count against their absence total for the year. And the guidance counselors at the girls' schools have been wonderful in terms of supporting them and just doing a little bit of an extra check-in on them and making sure that they're okay, and communicating that with me. So I am so appreciative of that resource. And, I know not every district may be like that, but it is always, I think, worth the conversation to say, hey, this is our family situation, and I just want you to be aware of that so that the kids can have just an extra set of eyes on them, looking out for them when they're at school.
That's a great suggestion. And I've got one too, is coaches and any extracurricular activities your kids might be in. I went and talked to, my kids were in karate when my husband left, and I went and talked to the karate teacher, and he made sure to pull, especially my son, at the beginning or the end, and just spend a little time with them, throw the ball with them, just talk it up with him. And so did the gymnastics teacher, and any sports they might be in. The coaches, if they know that a parent is gone, they can just pay a little more attention to him, maybe at the beginning or the end, and it just makes them feel more special, and they have more adults involved. It's not just, on you. And it was a huge help.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
I think the parent community too in those team situations is really nice. I know that there are lots of dads and moms, but that have stepped up kind of, to fill a little bit of that gap on my oldest soccer team. But, some of the dads on the sidelines will roughhouse and play with all of my girls, in the way that their dad does when he's here, to kind of fill that, and just looking out for them, offering rides home, another set of adult ears, like you said, to talk to that's not mom. So, you got to lean on that community.
Parents of service members, it's, as I have learned recently, a whole different ball game. I mean, 28 years with a husband doing these deployments, and now first with my adult son, it's a very different experience, different communication with the base, because I'm not a spouse, so I'm not included in the spouse communication. So I'm seeing now that you're kind of off in your own category, kind of off on your own, floating around, trying to get bits and pieces of information from people that you know. Any suggestions how we can help care for parents of deployed?
Yes, I can only imagine the difference as a parent versus a spouse. It has to be hard. You have less direct communication, I'm guessing, from, like you said, maybe your son, and also from the unit. Less kind of just day to day what's going on. Whereas a a spouse, you're just going to be kind of brought into it. And once again, very little control over if you get any information or not. It's not like you just can call up, you know, and ask for it. And there's probably, you know, this sense of you don't know what's happening. You don't know how to get more information. You can't fix it. I'm having a hard time even supporting him or her because I'm not getting the information to know what to support. So, and no matter what, they're still your kid and you're just going to worry. I mean, I know I would be worrying no matter how old that child is on a deployment. I would suggest that you recognize what you can control and what you can't. And I know that's easier said than done, but you maybe, for example, you know you're going to get a text once a week or a call once every 2 weeks, and just try with all you can not to, I don't want to use the word nag or harass, but or beg for more information. Just accept what they're going to give you or what they can give you, and just try to be at peace with that. And once again, it's that anxiety. Sometimes with adults, it's like, you know, as a parent, I'm always anxious. I'm always just worried. I'm constantly worried about my kids. It's like, I did not know that when I was going to have that when I became a mom. Nobody told me that was going to happen. It just shows up. But if we can realize that how our anxiety might be rubbing off or making them feel, that's really important. And I know I keep saying this, easier said than done, but you're going to have to let go and practice having faith and practice knowing that you can't control what's happening. You can't control how much information that you get from the unit or from the command. And just lean on your support system, I think, as best as you can. Lean on your community, your spirituality, your faith, whatever brings you that comfort and support. And just know that the relationship that you had with the child prior to deployment, it's still there. It's going to look a little bit different. But also, if you can't have that conversation before they go and have it, and I'm guessing most families are having this conversation. It's just what you expect isn't exactly at all what is given back to you. So I know this is hard, but try to have little expectations, because I think you're going to save yourself from a lot of worry and anxiety and peace of mind. I feel like you could probably speak to this best because you're going through it right now. I mean, it's tough.
His boss actually, who didn't deploy, one that stayed behind, did call me and everybody that left, which I had never happened before. And she was wonderful. She just wanted to touch base and say, hey, is he communicating? And honestly, a shout out to my son, Austin. He's been amazing at reaching out, even if it's just like a little text each day, because he knows that gives me peace. I try not to initiate all the time because, like you said, I don't want it to be a constant. But when he reaches out, then it gives me the opportunity, to reach back. And having his boss reach out. I don't know if anybody's listening who has people that have deployed underneath you, but a phone call to the family, just knowing that person is there and having their number in case you need anything was a huge comfort. Yeah. And I just really respected her for taking the time to do that.
Yeah. Also, another thing, is he married?
No.
Oh, okay. So I was going to say, if your child is married and they're deployed and they've left, a spouse behind and a family, being able to support the spouse and the family, I think is a huge thing that you can do. Might give you, a little bit of control over something. You're able to be of help and be of support. I think that would be really helpful. But once again, it's that conversation that you have to have before they deploy. How much help does he or she want? Because they may not. Right. If it's your in-law, sometimes you got to be careful with what you want versus what they want. So it's always kind of keeping a temperature reading on that, I think, is important too. But yeah, I can't even. I love that. I love how she called. I think that's wonderful. I hope they're doing that more and more.
I have tried very hard, especially in this change in situation, to keep his parents kind of in the loop of, what I know that is able to be shared, just to try to ease their mind a little bit. And I know, it's not an everyday thing, and I'm thankful that they don't have the expectation of that, because that can be extra stress. But at least once a week, I try to reach out to both of them and just, let them know that, yes, I've talked to him and he's good and all his people are good, and, that they're still hanging in there. And the other thing that was kind of eye-opening for me with, getting to know the two of you, and then being in my role as a volunteer leader for the Soldier and Family Readiness Group for his unit, was trying to think more about what the parents would want. And we have a lot of soldiers in his unit who are not married, and so who just have, a parent or a family, nuclear family at home, thinking about them. So we have a mom in our group who has kind of spearheaded like a parents chat. So, I encourage people to get in touch with the other parents within their unit. We've kind of sent out some feelers and asked for people who want to be included in a smaller, group conversation to respond to that. But they've been able to start a parents of grown soldiers side group, like side chat, nice, just to talk, because their stressors are different, or, the expectations are different. And so I think that has been really helpful for those of them that have connected that way, to just have someone to text and say, I haven't heard from, so-and-so in 5 days. Has anybody else talked to their kid? Like, what's going on? And I think they've really enjoyed that. So, you got to find that connection. And I think sometimes it seems to me, in my experience, that as a parent of a grown, service member, you might have to work a little harder to find that connection, because most people are thinking about the spouses and the kids that are left behind. But so I commend y'all for that. And I can't imagine ever being in that situation. But it may come someday. So
I think we as parents are naturally in a role to want to help and to want to fix things for our children. And I saw that with Rob's parents. During Rob's deployments, his dad would come over and mow our grass for us. That was like my least enjoyable task I ever had to do. I'm not a grass mower. I'll do lots of things, but that was not my thing. So he took that on for me. And in doing so, that was a weekly chat we got to have. So it was a way of, keeping up with them and having that conversation with them. But I'd also like to take a moment to spotlight a group called Blue Star Mothers of America. It's a national vetted nonprofit organization filled with moms. And I think different chapters do different things, maybe have different focuses. And to find that group, just Google Blue Star Mothers of America, and you can get connected to a group that is local to you. I just recently, within the past month, joined the Blue Star group of moms out of the upstate. I think they're very active. One of the activities that they do is they get together twice a year, pack out care packages to send overseas. They collect goods, but they also work with veterans groups. They work out of the Hughes Center in Greenville. That is a phenomenal center. But also, and I think that was my way of, while my son is not deployed, I thought, I really do want to help for those children, men and women who are deployed right now. And so if I can do that, that'd be a good way for me to help in that way. But I also think that it's a good place to go for moms when they have their meetings, to be with other moms. And even if it's just like, I think you mentioned in the last episode about running into a friend at the dentist's office, and just being in her presence was enough to give you breath and to help you to feel better. I feel like this group could be that for a lot of moms specifically out there. So that was Blue Star Mothers of America.
So I feel like we talked a little bit about this along, but just to kind of wrap it up, when when do you suggest, or what do you suggest people look for? Like, how does a family member know when it's time to reach out for more professional support?
I think a good rule of thumb is this, whatever I'm feeling or thinking or doing, is it getting in the way of daily life? Is it affecting my work, my relationships, my ability to function? So if you answer yes, then I would reach out for help. Other things to consider, a persistent sadness, persistent feelings of hopelessness, of helplessness, feeling overwhelmed, or feeling emotionally heavy most days, or having more of those days than not. Anxiety or worry or panic, that feels really hard to control. Things that you used to do that would help you aren't working for you anymore. Ongoing sleep problems, kind of withdrawing from others, or from relationships that, you used to hang out with people all the time. Let's see. Irritability, more so irritability or anger showing up or conflict showing up. Feeling, this kind of goes with the feeling overwhelmed, but feeling numb or not feeling anything, or feeling really just kind of desensitized to everything. You just feel numb. And then also, if you're drinking more than you usually would drink, to cope with just kind of the feelings, then those are all signs that you might need to talk to somebody. And when I say talk to somebody, I'm not saying like it's going to be a forever thing. You just maybe need to talk to somebody once or twice, or maybe 6 to 8 times, or just enough to give you a little bit of some coping skills, some ways to handle how you're feeling. And if you reach out to one of us, we're going to make sure we're going to assess for what's going on. Mm-hmm. And if we feel like you might need a higher level of care, we'll help you find the right person for that. But just, I would say if you find that it's like just impacting your day to day, then that's the biggest sign.
And I think it's important, to hear maybe from one military spouse or family to anyone that's listening that, asking for that help or that conversation is not a weakness. No. It is incredibly strong to say I can't do this on my own right now and I need help. So, I think in our vulnerability to show that to other people or to our kids, we talked about that earlier, to be able to say like, I'm sad, or I'm struggling, or I'm not handling my big emotions well, they can see then that, that's okay. So if you are a military spouse, that has benefited from counseling or from reaching out to somebody, and you see another friend who's struggling, like to be brave enough to say that to them and help them know that that's okay, I think is a wonderful gift that you can give somebody. So any other, I guess, specific resources? So we talked about, a few, but Military OneSource seems like a great one.
Mm-hmm. So I do have that number. I did write it down or type it out. So that 24/7 behavioral health care line, that number is 866-345-8400. I'll say it again, 866-345-8400. So how that works is you call and you leave a message, and one of us will call you back as soon as we can. Sometimes technology is also a curse, and things happen on servers and we may not get that call like right away, but we will get back to you as soon as we can. Military OneSource, we covered OneSource. They have a website, which is militaryOneSource.mil. Your chaplains still work with families that are here, that that they do have chaplains that go with them, but on the deployment. But there's also chaplains here in South Carolina that you can talk to. There's the local civilian therapist that we can help you find if that's the best option for you. And then let me make sure there's anything else that I might be forgetting. I always forget something, so somebody out there watching might be yelling at the camera right now, but that's all I can think of.
So we've talked about Military OneSource. If we can jump back a second, can you briefly explain what that is for people who do not know what that is?
Well, the one cool thing about, not one, but a really cool thing about Military OneSource is it's not just counseling. They do all different kinds of things. They have all different programs on there. They have relocation services on there. They have tax help. If you're still working on your taxes, you can call them and they'll help you with that. They help military spouses, I believe, find meaningful employment. There's so many programs on Military OneSource. I highly recommend just going to their website and checking it out. But if you are needing counseling, what you'll do is you'll call an 800 number. You can actually text with them too, and you'll tell them a little bit about what's going on, and they're going to do a little bit of an assessment, and then they're going to make a recommendation. And if you qualify, sometimes you don't qualify for Military OneSource programs. If you already have a major mental health diagnosis, let's say your doctor has diagnosed you with something and you're on medication, a lot of the times they're going to say, we're not a fit for you because you're considered like a different level of care, but they will help you find somebody if you need that support. So they do more like if you have a civilian job that has EAP counseling, which is like short-term solution-focused brief therapy model, that's what they're used for. So like stress of deployment, other career stress, relationship stress, things like that, are going to be more, that's really what they're there for, is to do with like basic they call it non-medical counseling. So just like I call it life on life's terms, like you're just dealing with life and you're stressed, and Military OneSource would be a good resource.
So and it's my understanding that it is available to military members and their direct dependents as listed in DEERS.
Right.
And then talk about that life on life type counseling. For instance, you call and get counseling for, say, conflict resolution for yourself, learning to cope better. And you qualify for like 10 to 12 sessions. But say during that counseling on the the conflict resolution strategies is determined that you need, say, marriage counseling.
Right.
You then can qualify for 10 to 12, I don't remember what the magic number was, additional sessions. And they're free.
Yes, free.
They can be done in person or through video or through telephone calls, I believe, and then I think also chat. I'm not exactly sure how the chat works, but I think at least this younger generation might like that. But it seems to me it'd be a great place to go after contacting your office. And they have an app that you can download. And if you'll look within the app there and search for chill pills, there are some guided meditation practices for relaxation.
Nice.
So those are kind of interesting to kind of go through as well.
Those were just posted on our family group site the other day by our service member and family readiness specialist.
Yeah, those are awesome. Yeah.
I want to plug one other organization. It's a nonprofit, the Military Spouse Advocacy Network, so MSAN, is a newer group. I know some people who serve on their board, but they offer, they have certified like counselors. They also offer peer-to-peer, like pairing, like you can go on there and request a spouse like buddy, for lack of a better term, where they set you up and you just, again, someone who is familiar with the military lifestyle, but also has a little bit of training in how to help you, maybe navigate some of these things. And they offer other resources as well, like additional, like continuing education stuff or job resources. So it's a cool spouse network. And I know there's a teen program. I saw this one, the Bloom Military Teen program that is centered towards teens. I meant to mention that in our kids section, but
we can provide a link to that.
Yep, okay. We've got some links. And then Operation Purple is one that provides more activities for kids that I meant to mention in that section also. So we will get all these in the links to give you some information. But I think this is it's a lot of really helpful stuff.
It really is. So for those of you who have family members that are deployed, it's not a normal situation, but the feelings you're feeling are normal for the situation you're in. And if you can just try to find something from today's podcast or from talking to other people in the same situation, some tools or routines that might help you along the way. And just reach out and ask somebody for help, just to spend time with them, talk to them, or just be quiet with them. You'd be surprised how many people just want to be there for you.
Lisa, thank you for being with us today and talking about this. So many of our family members are going through a very stressful time, and we just want to do what we can to bring resources to our families, but also to let them know that we know and we understand, and we're going through this with them.
Yes.
For those of you who are listening, this is Lisa Mustard. She is the Psychological Health Program Manager for the South Carolina Military Department.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you
Yes.
so much.
So good to have you here. So if you were listening and you enjoyed today's podcast, please hit that like button, that follow button, and follow us on whatever platform you listen on. And even better, share this with another military spouse or family member that you think might benefit from it. Our next episode is the one we teased before, but we're going to talk about the National Guard, more than you think, where we'll discuss the ins and outs of National Guard service and what most people don't know about it. And as always, thank you for listening to Family Guidons, from the Bluff Road Readiness Center to wherever you may be. Until next time.